Here's the recording of pages 17 to 20. So we're in chapter 1, How Civilized, from Hunter-Gatherers to City Builders. Our human odyssey stretches over many millennia and begins not with history, but prehistory. Pre is a Latin prefix that means before. Prehistory is the long period of time before human beings could write. History is the period from which we have written records. The human journey from prehistory to history, from cave dweller to city builder, was a very long one. In this chapter, we'll explore the life of early human beings as they began that journey. It might surprise you to learn that prehistory is a lot longer than history. For many years, perhaps more than 2 million years, people inhabited the earth but had no form of writing. They may not even have had a fully developed language, but that didn't stop early people from figuring out how to make good use of the world about them. We still don't know a lot about that distant prehistoric age, but what we do know is fascinating. It was a time when human beings became very resourceful indeed. In 1940, four teenagers found that out firsthand. Stampede on the Wall. One day in 1940, four boys in southwestern France made a discovery that amazed the world. In pursuit of their straying dog, they squeezed into a deep hole on a hillside that eventually opened up into a huge cavern. Striking matches, the boys peered around. The flickering light showed they were surrounded by an astonishing array of wild animals. Images of wild oxen, black horses, and red deer raced across the walls of the cave. Only after careful study did it become clear what the boys had discovered. They had stumbled upon nothing less than a prehistoric gallery of art. Who had created these marvelous images on the cave wall? What kind of people lived here? What do we know about their daily lives? And over here you can see above this graceful horse gallops across a wall of the Lascaux Grotto in France. Horses were often depicted in cave art. And then right here, many early humans lived in deep caves that offered shelter from the elements. Okay, overcoming ice and shaping stone. The paintings of the Lascaux Grotto, as the cave is now known, were made sometime between 15,000 and 13,000 BC. This was during the last major ice age. The Earth's temperatures had dropped and vast sheets of ice spread out from the ice caps of the North Pole. The ice shrouded more than a quarter of the Earth's land surface. In some places, it was almost 2 miles deep. Beyond the ice sheets lay semi-frozen tundra and steppe, where long, bitter winters thwarted into short, cool summers. Large herds of animals, the bulls and horses pictured in the Lascaux cave, roamed across this forbidding landscape. Other large creatures strode the steppe as well. Bison, mammoths, magnificent two-horned woolly rhinoceroses, and giant deer with antler spans of 10 feet or more. Early human beings lived here too. People had been sharing this unfriendly world with the bison, bulls, and deer for thousands of years. While they left no written records, they were adept at surviving in harsh conditions. These people dwelt in caves, in rock shelters of cliffs, and in tents. They used fire to warm themselves and cook. Fire, created by striking two very hard rocks against each other, or by drilling a pointed stick into a wooden base, also offered protection against the ever-present danger of wild animals. Lions, bears, and saber-toothed tigers, which often attacked at night, were terrified of fire and kept their distance. Early human beings made tools out of a variety of materials, especially stone. That's why we call this era the Stone Age. These early humans made finely worked stone spear points and knives, some as sharp and thin as modern steel blades. They also devised scrapers, cutters, perforators, and sewing needles, more than 100 types of tools in all. Using fine animal sinew as thread, they stitched hides and furs together into comfortable clothing and snug tents. Not everything these people produced was for survival. The people of the Stone Age also took time to fashion necklaces from shells, animal teeth, ivory, and colored pebbles. They sculpted and etched images of animals onto chunks of horn or bone. They made musical instruments such as flutes from the bones of birds, bears, or reindeer. And by the light of lamps that burned animal fat for fuel, they mixed pigments and applied them to the walls of the caves, like Lascaux, to depict the power and perhaps the religious importance of the animals of the hunt. We're going to take a look at this ice ages. From a variety of evidence, scientists have concluded that during the last 570 million years, the climate of the Earth has gone back and forth between warm periods and cool periods. The cooler periods are called ice ages because huge sheets of ice covered large areas of the planet. These periods have sometimes lasted several million years. The last major ice age, which began about 2 million years ago and ended about 11 to 12,000 years ago, is often called the Ice Age. During this time, glaciers repeatedly advanced over much of northern Europe, North America, South America, and parts of Asia. And remember in our talk in the class, we really don't know exact times. We're just kind of giving it our best guess. All right, human beings on the move. For the most part, the people of the Stone Age were people on the move. They were nomadic, wandering from place to place in search of food. We are still discovering new things about Stone Age people, but we have evidence that they traveled in bands of perhaps 30 men, women, and children. The members of such bands wore hooded tunics made of hide or fur and leggings that could be tucked inside hide boots. Spears at the ready, the men usually walked at the head of the band on the lookout for predators and prey. Women and children followed, sometimes stopping to collect berries, fruits, seeds, roots, or nuts. On their backs, the women carried infants in the hides that would provide shelter for the night. People of the Stone Age were skillful hunters. Working as a group, they could bring down and we'll come back to this. Let's take a look at some other things here. How long was the Stone Age? Really long. The Stone Age began about 2.5 million years ago, when early people first used small stones to make tools. It would last until nearly 3000 BC. In Mesopotamia, when people began using bronze to make their tools. You'll soon learn a lot more about the land and people of Mesopotamia. And here are some of the tools. There's a flint, hand ox bone needle, and stone mortar and pestle where they can like grind up grain. And then vast treeless plains called tundra cover much of the Earth's Arctic and subarctic regions. Okay, so tundra, icy areas with plants that can survive in cold weather, but no trees. Okay, no trees. Okay, so if we come back to this Let's see, the reading said, working as a group, they could bring down even the largest prey, such as a woolly mammoth. They observed the habits of animals and lay in wait at watering holes and along well-traveled routes. To kill animals in greater numbers, they could be killed by direct combat. They used game drives in which they drove whole herds of horses, reindeer, and other large mammals over the edges of cliffs to their deaths. Over time, bands of hunter-gatherers began to organize their life according to seasonal patterns. They moved with the migrations of the animals they hunted. They learned when and shellfish were the most plentiful in rivers or seas. They speared the fish with sharply barbed harpoons and caught the shellfish in nets held down with small stones. They knew when and where certain fruits or vegetables would ripen, and year after year, these nomadic peoples regularly returned to gather what gifts the land gave them. And there's a barbed bone harpoon. And here are woolly mammoths weighing 8 tons and standing 12 feet tall. Okay, and the first Americas. During the last ice age, sea levels were far lower than they are now. Because so much water was frozen in the ice sheets, the oceans shrank and large parts of the seabed lay uncovered. This allowed people to walk between land areas that are today separated by seas. At the time, small nomadic bands crisscrossed the Eurasian landmass seeking their prey. Their travels took them from Asia to North America. They may have walked across a land bridge about 50 miles long, where there is now a body of water, the Bering Strait. These early transcontinental travelers were probably following big game that had crossed the land bridge before them. But in doing so, they became the first humans to set foot on the North American continent. So here is, you can kind of see the United States, what's now the United States here. But, and then Asia is over here. But at one point, right in here, there was, um, the water was lower because of the ice, because the water was ice, and so people could cross. And so that's what they're saying there. North America underwent great changes as people spread out across the continent, but the whole Stone Age world was beginning to change, once again as a result of a shift in climate. Vegetation began to change, and life for the hunter-gatherers, for early humans like the cave artists of Lascaux, was about to change forever. Okay, and Eurasia is the name for the landmass formed by the continents of Europe and Asia. So all of this is Asia is over here, Europe is here, Africa is down here, and then North America is over here. So that's Eurasia. All right, and we will continue this on with the next lesson. So that's reading of pages 17 to 20.